AITA for refusing to let my life coach brother use my house as a free wedding venue for 180 guests and then move in until his empire launches. I, 28M, need to get this off my chest because I'm starting to question my own sanity. I've been a probation officer for 6 years now. It's not glamorous work. It doesn't come with Instagram-worthy photos or inspirational quotes I can put on a coffee mug. What it does come with is sitting across from people on the worst days of their lives and trying to help them build something better. It comes with 3 a.m. calls from panicked mothers asking if I can check on their son who's struggling. It comes with celebrating small victories, a guy who got his first legitimate job in 10 years, a woman who reconnected with her kids after getting clean, a young father who finally understood that being present matters more than being perfect. I do this work because someone has to believe in people when no one else will. But to my parents, 54M, 52F, I'm the hall monitor. That's what they've called me since I was a kid. When I volunteered at peer mediation in middle school, hall monitor. When I studied criminal justice in college, hall monitor with a degree. When I got hired at the county probation department, hall monitor with a paycheck. It's always said with this dismissive little laugh, like my entire career is some extended hall patrol duty. Meanwhile, my brother Marcus, 25M, is the one who inspires change. Marcus became a life coach 2 years ago after completing an online certification program. He's charismatic, I'll give him that. He's got the perfect teeth and the confident handshake and the motivational quotes ready for every occasion. He's been trying to launch his coaching empire ever since, which mostly means posting on social media about abundance mindsets and charging people $300 per hour for Zoom calls where he tells them to visualize success. He's had maybe 15 clients total. He still lives at home with our parents. But to mom and dad, Marcus is changing lives. Marcus is making a difference. Marcus has that special something. And me? I'm just a hall monitor. Here's where things get complicated. I bought a house 3 years ago. Nothing fancy, a modest 4-bedroom in a decent neighborhood. I got it cheap because it needed work, and I've spent every weekend since then renovating it. New kitchen. Refinished hardwood floors. A beautiful backyard with a patio I built myself. It's my sanctuary, the one place where I feel like my accomplishments actually count for something. Marcus got engaged 6 months ago to Emma, 26F, a social worker he met at a community event. I've only met her twice. Pleasant enough, seemed grounded. Mom and Dad were ecstatic about the engagement, of course. They threw a massive party, made speeches about how Marcus was building a beautiful life, how he was an example to us all. I sat in the corner and watched. No one mentioned that I had just gotten a commendation from the county for my work with a juvenile rehabilitation program. 2 weeks ago, my parents called a family meeting. I should have known something was coming when they said they wanted to discuss how we can all support Marcus's exciting future. The pitch went like this. Marcus and Emma want a meaningful wedding. Not some stuffy reception hall, something personal, something that reflects their journey. And wouldn't my house be perfect? The backyard could accommodate plenty of guests. The house itself could serve as the getting-ready area. It would save them so much money that they could invest in Marcus's business instead. How many guests are we talking about? I asked. About 180, Mom said casually. Maybe a few more. 180 people. In my backyard. In my home that I've spent 3 years carefully restoring. But wait, there's more. After the wedding, Marcus and Emma would need somewhere to stay while Marcus's coaching business really takes off. Our parents' house is too cramped for a married couple. Funny, it wasn't too cramped when I lived there while saving for my down payment. So they'd move into my place. Just temporarily. Just until the coaching empire launches. How long is temporarily? I asked. Dad waved his hand. A year. Maybe 2. You have all those empty bedrooms anyway. Marcus nodded eagerly. It would really help us get established, bro. And think about it, you'd have company. It gets lonely in that big house, right? I looked around the table. Everyone was smiling. Everyone expected me to say yes. Because that's what I do, right? I help people. I facilitate. I'm the hall monitor who makes sure everyone follows the rules and stays out of trouble. Let me think about it, I said. Mom's smile tightened. What's there to think about? It's family. I need to consider the logistics, I said. My schedule is unpredictable. I sometimes have work calls at strange hours. And 180 guests is a major undertaking, insurance, permits, liability. There you go, Dad said, shaking his head. Always focused on the rules. This is why you never take risks, son. This is why Marcus is building something and you're just... Just what? I asked. Processing paperwork, he finished. Checking boxes. Being a hall monitor. Marcus at least had the decency to look uncomfortable. Dad, come on. No, it's true, Dad continued. Marcus inspires people to change their lives. You just supervise them while they do it. There's a difference. I left the meeting without giving an answer. I've been avoiding my family's calls ever since. So here I am, Reddit. Typing this out at 11 p.m. on a Tuesday because I can't sleep. Today at work, I sat with a 45-year-old man who just completed his probation after a 15-year battle with addiction. He's been clean for 3 years now. He has a job, an apartment, a relationship with his estranged daughter. He shook my hand and said, "You never gave up on me when everyone else did. You saw something worth saving when I couldn't see it myself." I cried in my car afterward. Because this man, this stranger, gave me more validation in 30 seconds than my family has given me in 28 years. I help people rebuild their lives after incarceration. I help them find jobs when no one will hire them. I connect them with housing when landlords see their records and turn them away. I sit with them when they're struggling and remind them that one bad day doesn't undo all their progress. I believe in second chances, third chances, however many chances it takes. But to my family, none of that counts. My brother charges wealthy people hundreds of dollars to tell them they're capable of achieving their dreams. I help marginalized people prove to the system, and to themselves, that they deserve a chance at dignity. And somehow, he's the one who inspires change. I don't know what to do about the wedding and housing situation. Part of me wants to say no just to finally draw a boundary. Part of me wonders if I'm being petty, if this is just sibling rivalry that I should be mature enough to move past. AITA for not wanting my house turned into a free venue and a halfway house for my brother's dream? Edit. Wow, I did not expect this post to blow up. I'm trying to read through all the comments. To clarify a few things. No, my brother has not offered to pay for anything. The assumption is that family helps family, without keeping score. Yes, I pay my own mortgage, insurance, and property taxes. My parents have not contributed to my house in any way. No, Marcus's coaching business has not turned a profit. He's been operating at a loss for 2 years. The year or two timeline has no exit plan. No benchmarks. No conditions. Just until he gets established. Some of you are asking why I'm even considering it. I guess I've spent my whole life being the responsible one. The one who doesn't make waves. The one who facilitates. It's hard to suddenly become someone who says no. Update 1 week later. Something happened yesterday that I need to share. I was finishing up paperwork in my office when there was a knock on my door. It was Devin, a guy whose case I closed about 18 months ago. Devin had a rough start, grew up in foster care, got into some trouble in his early 20s, spent time inside for nonviolent offenses. When he came to me, he was angry, defensive, and convinced that the system was designed to watch him fail. We worked together for 2 years. There were setbacks. There were hard conversations. There was a period where I genuinely wasn't sure he was going to make it. But Devin put in the work. He got his GED, then started community college. He landed a job as an apprentice electrician. Last I heard, he was doing well. He stopped by to show me something, a letter of acceptance to the IBEW apprenticeship program. Full union membership track. Benefits. A real career. I wanted you to see it, he said. You're the first person who believed I could be something other than a statistic. We talked for a while. I told him how proud I was of him, how much his success meant. And then, somehow, I found myself telling him about the family meeting. About the wedding. About being called a hall monitor while my brother is praised for inspiring change. Devin was quiet for a long moment. Then he said something that stopped me cold. Mr. Thomas, can I tell you something? About my family. I nodded. My mom had 4 kids, he said. I was the oldest. When things went bad for me, when I got arrested, when I went inside, my family wrote me off. My younger brother, though, he never got in trouble. He got decent grades, got a sales job, bought a new car. To my mom, he was the success story. I was the cautionary tale. What changed? I asked. Nothing, really. My brother's still the golden child. My mom still talks about him like he hung the moon. But here's what I realized. Their opinion of me was never about me. It was about them. It was about what made them comfortable, what fit their story of who they wanted their family to be. He leaned forward. Your family calling you a hall monitor? That's not about your work. It's about them needing to believe that your brother is special because it reflects well on them. If they acknowledged what you actually do, that you help people society has given up on, that you do hard work without glory, they'd have to question why they value flash over substance. And that would mean questioning themselves. I didn't have a response. Devon continued, when I was on the inside, you know what I never had? Someone who sat across from me and said, I know this is hard, but I believe you can do better. That's what you gave me. That's what you give everyone who walks through your door. Your brother tells rich people they can manifest their dreams. You sit with people who've lost everything and help them rebuild. There's no comparison. He shook my hand before he left. Don't let them make you small, Mr. Thomas. You changed my life. That's worth more than any coaching empire. After Devon left, I sat in my office for a long time. I've spent so many years accepting my family's narrative. I'm the boring one. The cautious one. The one who colors inside the lines while Marcus paints masterpieces. I internalized it so deeply that I stopped questioning whether it was true. But it's not true, is it? Every day, I work with people who are fighting for their second chance. People who've made mistakes, paid for them, and are trying to prove they're more than their worst moment. I believe in them when no one else does. I advocate for them. I hold them accountable because accountability is how change actually happens. Not through inspirational quotes, but through showing up, doing the work, and having someone in your corner who won't let you quit. That's not hall monitoring. That's the hardest kind of social work there is. I called my parents that night. I've made my decision about the wedding, I said. The answer is no. My house is not available as a venue, and Marcus and Emma cannot move in with me. The silence on the other end was deafening. You can't be serious, Mom said finally. After everything we've done for you? What exactly have you done for me? I asked, and I was surprised by how calm my voice was. Paid for my college. I had scholarships and worked 2 jobs. Helped with my house. I saved for the down payment myself and did the renovations on my own. Supported my career. You call me a hall monitor every chance you get. That's just a joke. It's not a joke. A joke is funny. This is dismissal. It's you telling me that my work doesn't matter, that my accomplishments don't count, that Marcus's dreams are worth more than my reality. Dad jumped in. Now hold on. We've always been proud of both of you. No, I said. You've been proud of Marcus. You've tolerated me. And I've spent 28 years accepting that, thinking maybe if I worked hard enough, achieved enough, helped enough people, you'd finally see me. But I'm done waiting for that. This is about the wedding, Mom said coldly. You're jealous of your brother. This is about respect, I said. Something Marcus gets automatically and I have to beg for. I'm not doing it anymore. Find another venue. Find another place to live. But my answer is no. I hung up. My hands were shaking. But underneath the fear, there was something else. Something I hadn't felt in a long time. Relief. Update 2. 6 weeks later. The fallout from my refusal has been interesting. My parents initially tried the guilt approach. Phone calls about family obligations. Texts about how Marcus is devastated by my selfishness. A particularly dramatic email from my mother about how I was tearing this family apart. I didn't respond to any of it. Then came the flying monkeys, relatives I barely speak to suddenly reaching out to tell me how disappointed they were in my decision. An aunt I haven't seen in 3 years called to lecture me about family loyalty. I let it all roll off. And then something unexpected happened. Emma called me. Hi, this is Emma, she said. Marcus's fiancée. I know we've only met a couple of times, but can we talk? I was wary, but I agreed to meet her for coffee. She looked uncomfortable when she sat down across from me. I want to start by apologizing, she said. I had no idea about any of this until last week. About what specifically? About your parents calling you a hall monitor. About them dismissing your career. About the expectation that you just hand over your house and let us move in indefinitely. She shook her head. Marcus told me it was all your idea. That you'd offered the house because you wanted to contribute to the wedding somehow. I stared at her. He said that. He said you felt bad for not being more involved in his life and wanted to make it up to him. She looked down at her coffee. I believed him. I feel so stupid. You're not stupid, I said. You trusted your fiancé. That's normal. But there were signs, she said. The way his parents talked about you at family gatherings. Always these little comments about you being by the book, or cautious. I thought it was affectionate teasing. I didn't realize that they meant it. She nodded miserably. I'm a social worker, Marcus. I work with families in crisis every day. I know what scapegoating looks like. I've written reports about it, testified about it in court hearings. And I completely missed it in my own future family. That word, scapegoating, landed heavily in the space between us. I did some research after our initial plan fell through, Emma continued. I looked up what probation officers actually do. The caseloads you carry. The recidivism rates you're fighting against. The fact that you're essentially doing social work for a population that most people have completely written off. She met my eyes. How does anyone call that hall monitoring? Because it's not glamorous, I said. There's no inspirational marketing around it. My clients don't post testimonials on social media. When things go well, no one notices. When things go badly, I get blamed. It's thankless, invisible work. But it matters, Emma said firmly. It matters more than... She stopped herself. More than what? I asked. She was quiet for a long moment. I love Marcus. I do. But I've been thinking a lot about what he actually does versus what he says he does. He talks about inspiring change and transforming lives. But his clients are already successful people who want to optimize their potential. They're not facing systemic barriers. They're not fighting against a system designed to make them fail. That's a different kind of work, I said carefully. It is, she agreed. But should it be valued more? Should it be celebrated while your work is dismissed? She shook her head. I don't think so. And I don't think I can marry someone without addressing this. What do you mean? I told Marcus we need couples therapy before the wedding, she said. I told him I can't build a life with someone who treats his own brother the way he's been treating you. And I told him I need to understand why he's been comfortable with that for so long. I didn't know what to say. You don't have to forgive him, Emma added. Or your parents. But I wanted you to know that someone in this family sees you. Someone finally gets it. She reached across the table and squeezed my hand briefly before leaving. I sat there for a long time after she was gone, trying to process what had just happened. Someone in my family finally saw me. It just happened to be someone who wasn't technically family yet. Update 3, 4 months later. Reddit, I'm back with the final update. And it's a big one. After Emma's ultimatum, Marcus agreed to couples therapy. He was resistant at first, said it was overkill, and that they could work through their issues on their own. But Emma held firm. No therapy, no wedding. The therapist they found, Dr. Reyes, specialized in family systems and quickly zeroed in on the patterns that had shaped Marcus's worldview. Emma filled me in on some of these sessions, with Marcus's permission, eventually, because she wanted me to understand the process. Here's what emerged. Marcus had internalized from childhood that his worth came from being exceptional. Our parents poured praise into him like water into a bottomless well, and he became dependent on it. Any acknowledgement of my accomplishments felt, to Marcus, like a threat to his supply. Not consciously, he wasn't deliberately trying to diminish me, but structurally. If I was successful, if I was impressive, then maybe he wasn't as special as he'd been told. The hall monitor nickname? Marcus admitted he'd started it in middle school. Our parents thought it was hilarious and adopted it. What began as sibling teasing became a family institution, a way of keeping me in a box labeled, not special. Dr. Reyes asked me something that really hit home, Emma told me during one of our now regular coffee meetings. She asked Marcus, when you say you inspire change, who are you inspiring? And what kind of change? And then she asked him to compare his client outcomes to yours. What did he say? He got defensive at first. Started talking about mindset shifts and breakthroughs. But Dr. Reyes pushed. She asked how many of his clients had faced incarceration, addiction, homelessness. How many had been failed by the system? How many were fighting for their basic dignity? And none. Emma's voice was quiet. Marcus's clients are executives who want to be more productive. Entrepreneurs who want better work-life balance. People who are already winning at life and want to win more. There's nothing wrong with helping them. But it's not the same as what you do. The therapy continued for 3 months. I wasn't part of it directly, but I felt its effects. Marcus started texting me, awkwardly at first. Just checking in. Asking about my work. Then longer messages, asking questions about the criminal justice system, about re-entry challenges, about what my job actually entailed. One day he called me. "I owe you an apology," he said without preamble. "A real one. Not a, sorry you feel that way, apology. A genuine, I messed up apology." "Okay," I said cautiously. "I spent my whole life believing that I was the special one and you were just background. I never questioned it. I never thought about how it might feel for you to be constantly compared and found lacking. I just accepted that I deserved the spotlight and you deserved the shadows." His voice cracked slightly. "But here's the thing, I don't actually change lives. I help people who are already successful feel better about themselves. You help people who've lost everything find hope again. That's not even the same category of work." And I was so invested in my own narrative that I couldn't see it. "Marcus." "No, let me finish. The whole monitor thing. It started as a stupid joke when I was a kid who wanted to feel superior. But it became this weapon. Every time I used it, I was telling you that your achievements didn't matter. That you didn't matter. And our parents ran with it because it fit their story too, the golden child and the also-ran. I was complicit in making you feel invisible for 28 years. He was crying now. I could hear it. "I don't know how to make that right," he said. "I don't know if I can. But I'm going to try. Starting with actually understanding what you do and why it matters." The wedding happened last month. Not 180 guests in my backyard. Not a grand spectacle of Marcus's specialness. A modest ceremony in Emma's parents' backyard with 60 people who actually knew and loved them. And during the reception, Marcus asked to make a speech. "I want to start by thanking everyone for being here," he said, "but I especially want to thank my brother, Thomas." I froze. This wasn't planned. Most of you know me as a life coach. Someone who inspires change, helps people reach their potential, all that good stuff. He paused. "But I've learned something important over the past few months. I've learned that there's a difference between helping people who are already winning and helping people who the world has given up on." He looked directly at me. "My brother is a probation officer. For years, my whole life, really, my family treated that like it was nothing. We called him a hall monitor, like his work was just checking boxes and enforcing rules. We praised my career as transformational while dismissing his as bureaucratic." The crowd was silent. But here's the truth. Thomas sits with people on the worst days of their lives. He advocates for people who've made mistakes and are trying to prove they deserve another chance. He works within a system that often sets people up to fail, and he fights, every single day, to help them succeed anyway. He doesn't charge them $300 an hour. He doesn't post inspirational quotes about their breakthroughs. He just shows up, does the work, and believes in them when no one else will. Marcus wiped his eyes. "That's not hall monitoring. That's the hardest social work there is. It's real change, not the kind you pay for, but the kind you earn through accountability, through showing up, through not giving up on people even when they've given up on themselves." He raised his glass. "To Thomas, the one who actually inspires change. I'm sorry it took me so long to see it. I'm proud to be your brother." The room raised their glasses. I sat there, stunned, tears streaming down my face. Mom and Dad were there too, their expressions complicated, conflicted. This wasn't the family narrative they'd maintained for nearly 3 decades. I don't know what they were thinking, but for once, I didn't care. After the reception, Marcus pulled me aside. "I've been doing some volunteering," he said, "at a re-entry program downtown. Just a few hours a week, helping with job readiness workshops." "Yeah. It's humbling." He shook his head. "The guys I work with, they're not paying me. They're not there because they want to optimize their mindset. They're there because they need help navigating a world that doesn't want them. And I don't have all the answers. I don't have any motivational quotes that fix systemic discrimination. All I can do is show up and try to be useful." "That's all any of us can do," I said. "I get it now," Marcus said quietly. "Why you do what you do. Why it matters. I'm not saying I'm going to quit coaching or anything, it's still my career. But I understand now that real change doesn't happen through inspiration. It happens through accountability, through structure, through people like you who refuse to give up." He hugged me. A real hug, not the performative bro hug we'd always done at family events. "I'm sorry," he whispered, "for all of it." "I know," I said. "I know." Final thoughts. It's been 4 months since that wedding. Things have changed, slowly, imperfectly, but genuinely. Marcus continues volunteering at the re-entry program. He told me recently that one of the guys he works with, a former construction worker who did time for a drug offense, just landed his first legitimate job in 8 years. He shook my hand, Marcus said, sounding almost bewildered, and he thanked me for not treating him like a lost cause. And I thought, this is what Thomas feels. This is what actually matters. My parents are a work in progress. They haven't apologized. I don't know if they ever will. But there's been a shift. Mom asked about my work the other day. Genuinely asked, not with the usual dismissive tone. Dad sent me an article about criminal justice reform and said, "Thought you'd find this interesting." Small things. Maybe meaningless gestures. Maybe the beginning of something new. Emma and I have become actual friends. We meet for coffee regularly, and she's become one of my biggest advocates. She's also started incorporating information about the reentry system into her social work practice, referring clients to programs that help formerly incarcerated individuals. "You opened my eyes," she told me. "I thought I understood systemic barriers, but I wasn't seeing the whole picture." And me? I'm still a probation officer. Still sitting across from people on the worst days of their lives, still believing in them when no one else does. But something's different now. I don't need my family's validation anymore. I know what my work is worth. Devon stopped by my office again last week. He's been promoted to journeyman electrician. His daughter came for a visit. He's thinking about buying a house. "I tell everyone about you," he said. "Every guy I meet who's struggling, who thinks nobody cares, I tell them about my PO who never gave up on me. You're the reason I believed I could be something." That's what this work is. Not hall monitoring. Not bureaucratic box-checking. It's being the person who believes when no one else does. Some people inspire change from a distance. I do it in the trenches. And finally, my family understands the difference. Edit. Since people are asking, no, Marcus and Emma did not move in with me. They got a small apartment near her parents. Marcus is still building his coaching business, but he's also talking about developing a pro bono track for clients who can't afford traditional coaching. "You showed me there's another way," he told me. "I think that's the best outcome I could have hoped for. Thanks for following this journey, Reddit." Sometimes standing your ground is the hardest thing you'll ever do. But sometimes it's also the beginning of everything changing for the better. TLDR, refused to let my golden child brother use my house as a free wedding venue plus live with me indefinitely. His fiancée, a social worker, discovered the family dynamics and was horrified. Couples therapy helped my brother realize the difference between inspiring change through paid coaching and actually helping marginalized people. Modest wedding with public apology, brother now volunteers with reentry programs, and I finally feel seen by my family. NTA, and standing your ground can sometimes transform everything. She kept saying it was just stuff. But that stuff is how I pay rent. That stuff is 15 years of building a career. Posted to r/pro-revenge. I, 29M, never thought I'd be posting here, but after the past 3 months, I need to get this off my chest. What started as coming home early from a work trip has turned into a complete family implosion, a court case, and the end of my stepsister's engagement. Some people are calling me a hero. Others, mainly my stepmother, are calling me a monster. I'll let you decide. Fair warning, this is long. Grab a snack. The setup. I'm a professional photographer and videographer. I've been doing this for 15 years, starting with a beat-up Canon Rebel my grandmother gave me when I was 14. I photographed everything. My friends' garage bands, local sports events, anyone who'd let me point a camera at them. I worked my way through college shooting weddings on weekends, graduated, and slowly built my business into something I'm genuinely proud of. 3 years ago, I finally achieved my dream. I bought a converted industrial loft in a renovated warehouse district. It's not huge, about 1,800 square feet, but it's got 18-foot ceilings, massive windows, exposed brick, and the kind of natural light that photographers would sell their souls for. I converted about a third of it into a home studio. The rest is my living space. This place is my sanctuary. It's also where I keep approximately $47,000 worth of professional equipment. Cameras, lenses, lighting rigs, backdrops, editing stations with high-end monitors, audio equipment for video work. Everything I need to run my business is in that space. I'm meticulous about it. I have climate control, dedicated storage, insurance policies, and a strict no-shoes policy in the studio area. Enter my stepsister. My father married her mother when I was 16 and she was 13. We've never been close. Not hostile, exactly, but definitely not the sibling bond our parents hoped for. She always seemed to resent me. I think because her father had abandoned the family when she was young, and suddenly here was this teenager getting attention from a new father figure. Looking back, I can understand why a confused 13-year-old might feel that way. But we're adults now, and that resentment never really went away. It just became quieter. She's 26 now. Works as a receptionist at a dental office. Got engaged about 4 months ago to a guy she'd been dating for 2 years. Her fiancé seemed decent enough. We'd met at a few family dinners. Quiet, worked in IT, clearly adored her. I was happy for her, genuinely. Getting engaged is exciting. What I wasn't prepared for was what happened next. The incident. 3 weeks ago, I was booked for a destination wedding in Sedona. 3 days of shooting, plus travel. I told everyone I'd be back Sunday night. But the couple's grandmother passed away unexpectedly on Friday, and they decided to postpone the ceremony. Heartbreaking for them, obviously. I offered my condolences, rescheduled, and caught an earlier flight home. I landed Saturday afternoon. Exhausted, but looking forward to my own bed. My loft is in an old industrial area. Parking lot, freight elevator, that kind of thing. As I pulled in around 7 p.m., I noticed a lot of cars. More than usual. Weird, but not alarming. Maybe someone was having a gathering in one of the other units. Then I heard the music. It was coming from my floor. I remember standing in that freight elevator, equipment bags over my shoulders, listening to the bass vibrate through the walls, thinking there had to be some mistake. Maybe it was the unit below mine. Sound travels strangely in these old buildings. But when the elevator doors opened, I saw people spilling out of my door. My actual door. There were at least 15 people in the hallway alone, holding drinks, laughing. One guy was leaning against the wall smoking, and I watched the ash fall onto the concrete floor that leads to my home. I pushed through them. They barely noticed me. I was just some guy with bags. Inside, my loft had been transformed into a party venue. There were at least 50 people crammed into my space. Someone had pushed my couch against the wall. My dining table was covered in bottles and food trays. There were balloons everywhere. A banner hung across my studio area that read, "She said yes." And there, in the middle of it all, was my stepsister, wearing a white dress and a tiara, holding a champagne flute, laughing with a group of women I'd never seen before. I couldn't process it. My brain simply refused to accept what I was seeing. These strangers were in my home. My studio. Someone had moved my lighting rig, the one I'd spent 3 months saving for, to make room for a makeshift dance floor. My backdrop stand was propped against the wall like it was garbage. People were sitting on my equipment cases. I dropped my bags and walked straight to my stepsister. The moment she saw me, her face went through about 5 expressions in 2 seconds. Surprise, confusion, annoyance, and then, this is what gets me, irritation. Like I was the inconvenience. "What are you doing here?" she said. "You're not supposed to be back until tomorrow." What am I? I couldn't even finish the sentence. What is happening right now? Why are there 50 people in my apartment? She rolled her eyes. Actually rolled her eyes. "It's my engagement party." "Relax. We'll be done by midnight." "Your engagement party? In my home? That you broke into?" "I didn't break in. I have a key, remember? For emergencies." The key. The key was for emergencies. I gave it to her 2 years ago when I traveled to Europe for a month-long project. Someone needed to water my plants and check on things. She'd made a copy and never returned it. "This isn't an emergency," I said, my voice rising. "This is a party. With 50 strangers. In my home. Where I didn't invite you." People were starting to notice now. The music was still playing, but conversations were dying. Her fiancé appeared at her shoulder, looking uncomfortable. "Hey man," he said quietly. "We should probably—" "Don't," my stepsister snapped at him. Then she turned back to me. "Look, I know this isn't ideal, but I couldn't afford a venue, okay? Do you know how expensive it is to throw an engagement party? And you have all this space just sitting here. It's my studio. It's where I work. You weren't even using it. You were supposed to be in Arizona. That doesn't mean—" I stopped. Took a breath. Then I looked around at my studio area. That's when I saw the camera. My Canon EOS R5 with an L-series 24 to 70 mm lens. It was on the floor. Not in its case, not on a shelf, on the floor, near the makeshift dance area. And there was something dark smeared on it. I pushed past my stepsister and picked it up. Wine. There was red wine all over it. The lens was scratched. When I tried to turn it on, nothing happened. $4,000. Just the body was $4,000. The lens was another $2. Gone. I kept looking. My $1,200 monitor had a crack running diagonally across the screen. Someone had spilled something sticky on my editing desk, and it had dripped into my audio interface. One of my lighting rigs was lying on its side with a visible dent. My fabric backdrop, the custom 10 by 12 hand-painted one-eyed commission from an artist in Portland, had a rip in the corner and what looked like makeup stains on it. I felt physically sick. "Who did this?" I asked, turning around. My voice was shaking. "Who touched my equipment?" Silence. 50 strangers stared at me like I was the unreasonable one for asking. My stepsister stepped forward. "It's just stuff," she said. "You have insurance. Don't ruin my engagement party over some cameras." Just stuff. She kept saying it was just stuff. But that stuff is how I pay rent. That stuff is 15 years of building a career. Every piece of equipment in that room represented months of work, careful selection, meticulous care. And she dismissed it like I was upset over a broken coffee mug. "Everyone out," I said. "No. You can't be serious. I'm calling the police in 60 seconds. Everyone who's still here when they arrive gets to explain to the officers why they're in someone else's home without permission." The party dissolved faster than I expected. People grabbed their purses and jackets and headed for the door, shooting me looks that ranged from sympathetic to disgusted. My stepsister stood in the middle of the chaos, her tiara askew, her face red with anger. "You're ruining everything," she hissed. "This was supposed to be my night. You ruined it yourself when you broke into my home and let people destroy my livelihood." I did call the police. They arrived about 20 minutes later, by which point almost everyone had left except my stepsister, her fiancé, and a few of her closest friends who were helping her gather her decorations. The officers took a report. My stepsister kept insisting she had permission, that it was a misunderstanding, that I was overreacting. The police explained that having a key doesn't equal having permission, and what she'd done could technically be considered criminal trespass. Her fiancé looked mortified. He kept apologizing to me, to the officers, to everyone. My stepsister finally left, shooting me a look of pure hatred as she went. I spent the rest of the night documenting damage, taking photos, making lists. By 3 a.m., I had a preliminary assessment, roughly $12,000 in damaged or destroyed equipment, plus at least a week of lost work while I dealt with repairs and replacements. I didn't sleep that night. Update 1. The family fallout, posted 3 days later. The morning after the party, my phone exploded. First text from my stepmother: "How could you humiliate stepsister like that? She's devastated. You need to apologize." Then a call from my father, who sounded tired. "Son, I need to understand what happened." I explained. Calmly. Factually. The unauthorized entry. The damage. The fact that my career had been affected. He listened without interrupting, which I appreciated. When I finished, he was quiet for a long moment. Then, "She shouldn't have done that. That was wrong." "Thank you. But your stepmother is furious. She's saying you called the police on her daughter, that you embarrassed her in front of everyone." I called the police because 50 strangers were in my home and $12,000 worth of equipment was destroyed. What was I supposed to do? Let them keep partying? He sighed. I know. This is going to be messy." He wasn't wrong. My stepmother called me that afternoon. She was crying, which immediately made me feel guilty, which then made me angry because I had nothing to feel guilty about. She didn't mean for anything to get damaged, she said. She just wanted a nice party. She couldn't afford a venue. She thought you'd understand. She never asked me, because she knew you'd say no. That's exactly the point. That's why you ask. If the answer would be no, you don't just do it anyway. You have all that space. You're never even there. It was supposed to be one night. My equipment is destroyed. I have to cancel shoots next week because I can't work. Do you understand that? She went quiet. Then, softly, "She's my daughter. She made a mistake. A $12,000 mistake. Has she offered to pay for any of the damage?" Silence. That's what I thought. I filed my insurance claim that week. I also consulted with a lawyer who confirmed that small claims court was an option. The limit in my state is $10,000, so I wouldn't recover everything, but I'd recover something. I also changed my locks. Update 2. The insurance and the lawsuit, posted 2 weeks later. Good news and bad news. Good news. My insurance covered a decent portion of the damage. After my deductible, I was looking at getting about $7,000 back for replacement equipment. Bad news, insurance doesn't cover lost income, and the adjuster made it very clear that my rates would likely go up after this claim. Something about unsecured premises and third-party access. They weren't thrilled that someone had accessed my home studio with a copied key. So I was still down several $1,000s, plus the income from canceled shoots, plus the time spent dealing with all of this. I filed a small claims case against my stepsister for the remaining damages. The amount, $8,500, which included the deductible, lost income, and costs not covered by insurance. When she was served, the family reaction was nuclear. My stepmother left me a voicemail so heated that my lawyer said I should save it for the record. Key phrases included vindictive, cruel, attacking family, and you'll never be welcome in this house again. My stepsister texted me directly for the first time since the incident. I can't believe you're suing me. We're family. You're going to take me to court over some broken cameras? You're psychotic. I didn't respond. My father called me the day after. He sounded exhausted. Your stepmother is beside herself. I'm sorry she's upset. I'm also out $8,500. I know. I told her that. I told her you have every right to seek compensation. She doesn't want to hear it. What about my stepsister? Has she said anything? Any offer to pay? Any apology? She says it wasn't her fault. That it was party guests who damaged things, not her. She invited those guests to my home without permission. I know. He was quiet for a while. Then, I'm not going to tell you what to do. You're an adult. But I want you to know that whatever happens, I'm your father first. I love your stepmother, but I won't pretend what happened was okay. That meant more than I expected. Her fiancé reached out around this time too. He sent me a Facebook message. Hey, I know things are crazy right now. I just want you to know I'm sorry. I didn't know she didn't have permission. She told me you said it was fine. If I'd known, I would have stopped it. I'm happy to pay for some of the damage myself. I actually felt bad for the guy. He seemed genuinely caught in the middle. I thanked him for the offer but said the lawsuit was against my stepsister, not him. He replied, I understand. She's really stressed about all this. She keeps saying you're being unreasonable. But between us, I'm starting to think she's not seeing this clearly. That message haunted me. Update 3, Court Day, posted 5 weeks later. Small claims court isn't like TV. There's no jury. No dramatic objections. It's a small room, a judge, and 2 people trying to explain their sides of the story. My stepsister showed up with her mother. Her fiancé wasn't there, which surprised me. My father came to support me, which surprised my stepsister. I saw her face fall when he walked in and sat on my side of the room. I went first. I presented everything: photos of the damage, receipts for the equipment, documentation from my insurance company, a log of the canceled shoots with estimated income loss, the police report, a timeline of events. I was calm. Professional. I stuck to facts. The judge asked me, and you never gave the defendant permission to use your residence for an event? No, Your Honor. I gave her a key 2 years ago for emergency purposes while I was traveling internationally. She kept a copy without my knowledge. Using that key to host a party with 50 guests was not an authorized use. My stepsister's turn. She started crying almost immediately. Not strategic crying. I think she was genuinely overwhelmed. She talked about how hard it had been to plan an engagement party with no money, how she just wanted one nice night, how she never meant for anything to be damaged. I thought he'd be okay with it, she said, her voice shaking. We're family. I thought he'd understand. Did you ask him? The judge asked. No. But, did you inform him you were hosting an event at his residence? No, but he wasn't even supposed to be there. Whether or not he was present doesn't change whether you had permission. Did you have permission? I had a key. That's not what I asked. She started crying harder. My stepmother tried to interject, but the judge shut that down immediately. In the end, it wasn't even close. The judge ruled in my favor for the full $8,500. He also delivered what I can only describe as a lecture. Having a key to someone's home does not give you the right to use that home without explicit permission. The fact that the plaintiff was traveling does not give you the right to host events. The fact that you are family does not give you the right to damage property without consequence. I hope you'll consider this when making decisions in the future. My stepsister was ordered to pay $8,500 in damages, plus court costs. Walking out of that courtroom, I expected to feel victorious. Instead, I felt hollow. My stepmother wouldn't look at me. My stepsister was sobbing. My father put his hand on my shoulder but didn't say anything. I almost felt bad when the engagement ended. Almost. Then I remembered she still hasn't apologized. Update 4. The engagement ends, posted 7 weeks later. I found out through my father. Apparently, over the weeks following the trial, things deteriorated between my stepsister and her fiancé. The version I heard, and I'm getting this secondhand, is that he'd been trying to get her to apologize to me, to take responsibility, to work out a payment plan for the judgment. Her response? She refused. She doubled down. She kept insisting I was the bad guy, that I'd attacked family, that anyone who sided with me was a traitor. She demanded that her fiancé cut ties with me too. He apparently said something like, "I'm not going to pretend your brother did something wrong when he didn't." He called me her brother. We've never been that close. It was oddly touching. The final straw came when she suggested they shouldn't invite my father to the wedding if he was going to take sides. Her fiancé pointed out that my father hadn't taken sides. He just acknowledged that what happened was wrong. "That is taking sides," she apparently said. Her fiancé looked at her, really looked at her, and said, "I'm starting to think you don't know how to take responsibility for anything." The engagement was called off 2 days later. I won't pretend I didn't feel some grim satisfaction. But honestly, it was mostly sad. I didn't want her relationship to end. I just wanted my equipment replaced and an acknowledgement that what happened wasn't okay. My stepmother called me after the breakup. This was the only time we spoke in weeks. "Are you happy now?" she said. Her voice was flat. "Dead. You destroyed her engagement. You destroyed her life. I hope it was worth it." "I didn't destroy anything. She made choices. Her fiancé made choices. Those choices have consequences. You could have been the bigger person. You could have let it go. You could have handled this like family. Family doesn't break into your home and destroy your livelihood. Family apologizes when they make mistakes. Has she apologized to me once? Even once?" Silence. That's what I thought. She hung up. My stepmother called me vindictive. Maybe I am. But I didn't throw a party in someone else's home and destroy their livelihood. I didn't refuse to apologize. I didn't play victim when I was clearly in the wrong. Update 5. Final. The aftermath, posted 3 months later. It's been 3 months since the party. I want to give you all a final update, because the story doesn't end with a neat bow. My equipment has been replaced. Insurance covered most of it. The $8,500 judgment. My stepsister is paying it off in installments. She makes about $15 per hour, so this is going to take her years. Every month, I receive a check for $150. I deposit it without comment. My relationship with my stepmother is over. Not in a dramatic, door-slamming way. It's just dead. We don't speak. We don't text. When I visit my father, she makes herself scarce. We're polite if we cross paths, but there's nothing there. She'll never forgive me, and honestly, I'm at peace with that. My father is stuck in the middle, and I hate that for him. He's doing his best to maintain relationships with everyone, but it's clearly wearing on him. I've told him repeatedly that I don't expect him to choose, that I'll never ask him to pick sides. He's my dad. I love him. That doesn't change. Family gatherings are essentially impossible now. Thanksgiving was a disaster. I went to a friend's house. Christmas was smaller. My father came to see me separately from his wife and stepdaughter. It felt fragmented. Incomplete. Sometimes I wonder if I did the right thing. Not about the lawsuit, I maintain that was justified, but about calling the police the night of the party. Maybe I could have handled it differently. Cleared everyone out, assessed the damage, tried to work something out privately. But then I remember, the key was for emergencies. I guess wanting a free venue was her emergency. I remember her face when she said, "It's just stuff." The dismissiveness. The complete inability to see my perspective. And I remember that in the weeks that followed, she never once apologized. Never offered to pay. Never acknowledged that what she did was wrong. She just kept playing victim, kept insisting I was the monster for demanding accountability. Her fiancé was right. She doesn't know how to take responsibility. The last thing I'll say is this: I won. By any objective measure, I won. I got my money. She faced consequences. Her engagement ended because her fiancé finally saw who she really was. Justice, such as it is, was served. But victory came with a cost. My family is fractured. Holidays are different now. My father's marriage is strained. My stepsister, whatever her flaws, is alone and in debt and probably hurting. I don't regret what I did. I'd do it again. But I won't pretend it didn't cost me anything. Sometimes the right thing to do still leaves scars. Edit, posted a few days after the final update. A lot of people have asked about her ex-fiancé. We actually grabbed a beer last week. He's doing okay. Said he'd had doubts about the relationship for a while. The party incident just crystallized things for him. It wasn't even about you, he told me. It was watching her refuse to admit she was wrong. It was the way she expected everyone to just go along with it. I kept thinking, if we get married and something goes wrong, will she ever be able to say, I messed up? And I realized the answer was no. He's a good guy. I hope he finds someone who deserves him. As for my stepsister, I heard through the grapevine that she's been telling people I stole her fiancé by turning him against her. The narrative has shifted entirely. In her version, I'm some kind of mastermind who orchestrated the whole thing to destroy her life. Whatever helps her sleep at night, I guess. I'm moving on. I've got new equipment. New projects. The studio is better than ever. Last month, I booked a major commercial campaign that I'd been chasing for 2 years. Life goes on. But I still deposit those $150 checks every month. Every single one. Not because I need the money anymore, but because actions should have consequences. Because, sorry, shouldn't be so hard to say. Because that stuff she dismissed so casually was 15 years of my life. She's paying for it now. Literally. And she still hasn't apologized. TLDR, stepsister used my emergency key to throw her engagement party in my loft without permission. 50 strangers destroyed $12,000 plus in photography equipment. When I caught her, she said, it's just stuff, and demanded I not ruin her party. I called the police, filed an insurance claim, and sued her in small claims court. Won $8,500 judgment. Her fiancé saw her true colors during this whole mess. Her refusal to apologize, her victim mentality, her inability to take responsibility, and called off the engagement. Now she's single, in debt, and still blaming me. My relationship with my stepmother is destroyed and family gatherings are impossible. Victory came with a cost, but I'd do it again. Here's what I learned from suing my stepsister. Victory and loss can wear the same face. She kept saying it was just stuff. But that stuff is how I pay rent. That stuff is 15 years of building a career. Every camera, every lens, every piece of equipment in that room represented months of careful saving, deliberate choices, meticulous care. And she dismissed it like I was upset over a broken coffee mug. The key was for emergencies. I guess wanting a free venue was her emergency. I've replayed that night 100 times. 50 strangers in my home. My $4,000 camera on the floor with wine soaking into its circuits. My stepsister in her tiara, annoyed that I'd shown up early to my own apartment. You're not supposed to be back until tomorrow, she said. As if my schedule was the problem. As if I was the one who'd done something wrong. She never asked permission because she knew I'd say no. That's exactly why you ask. If the answer would be no, you don't just do it anyway and hope you don't get caught. Her fiancé saw it clearly. Not the party itself. He'd been lied to, told I'd approved everything. What he saw was the aftermath. The way she refused to apologize. The way she played victim while I catalogued thousands in damages. The way she demanded everyone take her side or be labeled a traitor. I'm starting to think you don't know how to take responsibility for anything, he told her. 2 days later, the engagement was off. I almost felt bad when it ended. Almost. Then I remembered she still hasn't apologized. Not once. Not a single time in 3 months. Not when the police came. Not when I filed insurance. Not when I sued her. Not when the judge ruled against her. Not when her relationship ended. She just kept shifting blame, playing victim, insisting I was the monster for wanting accountability. My stepmother called me vindictive. Maybe I am. But I didn't throw a party in someone else's home and destroy their livelihood. I didn't refuse to apologize. I didn't play victim when I was clearly in the wrong. I won. By any objective measure, I won. Got my money back. She faced consequences. Her fiancé finally saw who she really was. Justice, such as it is, was served. But victory came with a cost. My relationship with my stepmother is dead. Family gatherings are impossible. My father is stuck in the middle, and I hate that for him. Thanksgiving was at a friend's house. Christmas was fragmented, incomplete. Sometimes the right thing to do still leaves scars. I still deposit those $150 checks every month. Not because I need the money, but because actions should have consequences. Because, sorry, shouldn't be so hard to say. Because that stuff she dismissed so casually was 15 years of my life. She's paying for it now. Literally. And she still hasn't apologized. Her ex-fiancé told me something over beers last week. He said it wasn't even about me. It was watching her refuse to admit she was wrong. It was realizing that if they got married and something went wrong, she'd never be able to say, I messed up. Some people can't apologize. They'd rather lose everything, their money, their relationships, their family, than admit they were wrong. I'm not one of those people. I can admit that what I did had costs. I can admit that my family is fractured now. I can admit that victory feels heavier than I expected. But I'd do it again. Because some things matter more than keeping the peace. And accountability is one of them.